Right. So this week, this is what we're talking about. Contractions are things like isn't. That's a contraction. Possessives are things like Tom's. That's a possessive. And the reason why the font is so big today is because I want you to notice the difference between these two. Hang on. Ah, it's not working. Um, okay. I'm going to need Microsoft Word for this. Okay, what is different about these two? What's the difference between these two? Okay, hang on, hang on. Technology. Okay, yeah. What is different between these two? This. This one is straight. This one is curved. 一个直的，一个弯的. In fact, this symbol is not an apostrophe. 它不是撇号. It's a mathematical symbol. If you're measuring things, this means foot, 英寸. If you are measuring a circle, then it's an arc minute, or sometimes just called a minute. So, for example, if you're measuring longitude and latitude, 经纬度, then it's something like 45 degrees and then however many minutes, however many seconds. So this is a minute or a foot, and this is an inch or an arc second. These are not apostrophes. It's just that a lot of simple computer programs use it as an apostrophe because the curved apostrophe takes up more space. It uses more power. So to save power, a lot of computer programs are lazy. But these are not the correct punctuations. It has to curve. Right? So either um, apostrophe or quotation mark. These have to curve. And this may be on the final exam. So open your eyes, pay attention, etc. Okay, so we're going to use Microsoft Word this week. Thank you, Bill Gates. Okay, so contractions, I bet you know most of them, right? That's still a bit too big. Why is it too big? So like words such as um, is and are and not are often contracted. So let's take the nots first. Okay, so like what was it? Wasn't, isn't, haven't, hasn't. How about this one? Needn't. which means need not, which means does not have to. It does not mean you should not. It means you don't have to. Should not can also be, and then you have like wouldn't, and then you have less formal contractions such as ain't. Ain't is, you see, look, there's a red line. Microsoft Word does not think ain't is a word. Ain't is a word, but it's informal. It means uh, any variation of be plus not. Isn't, aren't, I forgot that one. Aren't and weren't, right? Ain't can replace all of these. Well, ain't can replace all of these. Isn't, wasn't, aren't, weren't. Um, in some places in the United States, they use the word ain't instead. Now, um, these should be very familiar to you. How about the is ours? So like uh, he's, she's, it's, you're, there. Am I missing any? I think that's it, right? Okay, so there's something you should remember. This can only be is. You cannot contract was. This is very important. Some English, some high school English teachers apparently told you you can, you cannot. Apostrophe S is only present tense. Oh yeah, can't. So if you expand these not contractions, they all look quite familiar and predictable. But you should know that can't equals cannot, and cannot is one word. This is one word. For some strange reason, because English is weird, cannot is one word. Okay, continuing with the be verbs. Remember a contraction, sorry, an apostrophe is mainly for contractions. So if you see the word it's, there's no apostrophe, so it is not a contraction. It is actually a possessive. Contractions take priority over possessive. If there's a confusion, it is a contraction. So the one with no apostrophe is the possessive, which means like belonging to it. And then you have some easily confused ones, right? Your is also a possessive, and then there is also a possessive, and then you have uh, there, which is an adverb. So remember, if there is an apostrophe, it is most likely a contraction. So how about these two? Sorry, how about these two? How do you remember which one is which? Look at your. It ends in R. So if there ends in R, it's a possessive. And if it's there, then the opposite is, of course, here. And then the question is where? Do you see the similarity here? Here, there, where. So these are a series. Hopefully that will help you remember which there you are supposed to use. And then finally, we have unusual contractions. Have you seen this before? Well, not like that, like this. So these are the older forms of um, it is and it was. So if you read more formal literature, or if somebody is being funny online, you may see these contractions, and now you know what they mean. The apostrophe for contractions does not actually follow any rules. The only thing you should remember is that the contraction tells you some letters are missing. So for example, if next year, you're studying Introduction to British Literature, some of those old-timey poems, you might come across this word. Remember, the apostrophe tells you some letters are missing. So this word is actually through. You may come across this word. Some letters are missing. This one is ever. And so there will sometimes be even less predictable contractions. As long as you remember it, it means that there are missing letters. Hopefully you can guess what the letters are from the context. You can figure out what word it's supposed to be. Yeah, speaking of unusual contractions, you also have um, things like mightn't, oughtn't. You can figure out what it means, even though it's less common. Okay, do you have questions about contractions? All right, let's move into possessives. We already talked a bit about possessives, pronouns. Let's talk about general cases. If the noun does not end with S, you just add apostrophe S. Um, if the noun ends with S, you also add apostrophe S, but you pronounce it differently. Tom, Toms, boss, bosses. And if it's a plural noun that ends in S, add apostrophe S, and then pronounce it differently. So uh, Jones is a family name. So when you say the Jones, you're talking about the family named Jones. It's a plural noun. Uh, okay, that's a bad example. These two are the same example, actually, boss and Jones. What we need is a plural noun. Okay, so bosses. Let's say you have, yeah, okay, hang on. Uh, kids. Kids is plural. So if you need to make a possessive, just add the apostrophe. You do not need a second S. But if your original noun ends in S, you make a plural by adding ES, and then you make a possessive of the plural by adding an apostrophe with no extra S. So this is still pronounced bosses, right? These two words are pronounced the same, but because they're spelled differently, And because the apostrophe is put in a different place, the meaning is different. So, for example, the boss's car, and then the boss's cars, because the if you have more than one boss, you probably have more than one car. Each boss probably has its own car, their own car. But the two words are pronounced in the same way. Okay, so that's possessives. Um, Sometimes you have more complicated situations, like this means the hat that belongs to the man on the roof. In this case, I would encourage you just to write that. Don't use a possessive, right? So the hat belonging to the man on the roof is much clearer. So nobody accidentally thinks you're talking about a hat that belongs to a roof. And so this brings us to the second way that English forms possessives, of. Using of also has some dangers. For example, the card of the boss. Does this mean that the card belongs to the boss? Or does that mean that the boss is on the card? Like the card is a picture of the boss or the boss's name? Of can go in both directions. So, like the color of the painting. Are you talking about how the painting looks? Or are you talking about how the painting uses color? Like color as a factor in this painting. Okay, so let me try to give you another example. The writing of the essay. Are you talking about how well the essay is written? Or are you talking about the act of writing the essay? So let me give you two example sentences. The writing of the essay was very bad, which means it's really hard to read. It's painful to read. But the second sentence, the writing of the essay took a long time. So we're not talking about the writing quality, we're talking about the action of writing. I want you to notice that these two sentences, the meaning of the word writing is different. And so of can be used in both ways. And this is the danger of using of. So, that's why we have two ways of um, doing possession in English. If one gets confusing, you can use the other one. And if both are confusing, you should rewrite your sentence. I feel like I'm forgetting something. Okay, I'll remind you when I remember it. So do you have questions about, oh, I remember. Okay, okay. Um, so as I said, this sentence has two meanings, right? Does the card belong to the boss or is the boss's picture and name on the card? To clear up the confusion, English has something called a double possessive. You use both. And so this is telling the reader this card belongs to the boss. not the other meaning. We're purely talking about possession. And the main example is a good friend of mine. Think about this. Mine is a possessive pronoun. Of is also possessive. So this is a double possessive. It's emphasizing this is my friend. If you say a friend of me, technically, in English, friendship only goes one way. Haha. So a friend of me means um, I am that person's friend, but that person is not my friend. So if you really want to emphasize that the friendship goes both ways, use a double possessive. A good friend of mine. Okay, those are possessives. Questions? Okay, then finally, the third part of today's lesson is quantifiers. Now, English has a lot of quantifiers. I can't remember them all, so we're going to use the textbook. Did you know we have a textbook? This one. If you have any questions, I'm basically using this textbook. So I have opened it here. It looks like this. A New English Grammar American Edition by Andrew Rossiter. I should note that Rossiter is English. He's not American. So this is why it's called the American edition, because the first edition was the British English edition. And because of that, sometimes his rules are technically still British English. Like American English is kind of a foreign language to him. But most of his rules are good. And the reason I choose this book, despite that problem, is because it uses color to help you understand. And it gives you many, many examples. Um, the one thing it does not have is practice questions. That's why we practice a lot in class. Okay, quantifiers. Quantifiers are words that tell you how much of something. Quantity means how much. Quantifier means a word that tells you how much. So let's begin with some and any. Some and any are neutral, which means it only means more than one. It doesn't tell you it doesn't tell you if it's a lot or a few. It's just more than one. Usually, if you say something in the indicative mood, which is like a regular sentence, use some. If you say something in an interrogative mood, which is a question, or if you use negation, 否定, change that to any. I have some apples. I don't have any apples. Do you have any apples? There is an exception because this is English. There's always an exception. The exception is you can ask questions using some if you expect a positive answer. So if you ask, do you have any apples? You don't know whether the person has apples. But if you say, do you have some apples? You expect the person to have some apples. You're just not sure. So if I say, uh, do you have any water? I don't know if you have any water, but if I say, do you have some water? If you do, you should drink it. I'm expecting that you have it, and therefore my point is that you should drink it. And then you have more examples here. So I said you can use any in negation, but another way to negate is to add the word no. So for example, there aren't any means there are no. English is fun like this. You can move the negation around. Um, either not or no. So you mustn't bring any, which means you must not bring any. You should not bring any. Also is the same thing as you must bring no. And the most common example is a sentence that begins with no. No cell phones are allowed, right? You've seen this sentence before, right? In a movie theater, no cell phones, etc. Um, Same thing as cell phones are not allowed. So you can either negate the verb or you can negate the noun. The meaning is the same. Okay, we're gonna skip compounds. We'll talk about compounds later. Right, this is the example I was talking about. If you use some, is there anyone means you don't know if there is anyone. If you say is there someone, that means you expect that there is someone. An affirmative answer is expected. Okay, some, any, and none, not no, none can be used with of, right? Some of, any of, none of. And this is when you have a specific group in mind. Remember last week we said the is a specific context. So if you're thinking about a specific group of children, then you would say some of the children. If you're not thinking of a specific group, if you're talking about all children around the world, you don't have to add of the. You just say some children. And so notice here, the original negation is no actors like, or the actors don't like. But if you use of the, you have to use none. None of the actors. Usually it's singular. None is usually singular. So this should be likes. But sometimes none is also plural, especially if you're British. So it's not exactly wrong, but it's more common to be singular. Any is always singular. Let's see if we have an example earlier. Um, Here, anything is anything, right? Singular. Okay. Yeah, so it's not just the. Any word in front of the noun, you would have to use of. Any specific context, right? There's nothing here between the of and the noun, so this is wrong. Let's see, others. Several, a number of, enough just mean some. More than one. Um, Large quantities. So some means more than one, but these words mean a lot more than one. So much, many, lots of, a lot of, plenty of, numerous, a large number of. Later on, the book will tell you that these basically mean the same thing, and that's true, but the grammar is slightly different. You can only use much with uncountable nouns. Much love, much water, much sand, much money. You can only use many with countable nouns. Many people, many cars, many points. Um, Usually, though, we just use a lot of, because a lot of, you can use a lot of anywhere, any context. Just add a lot of, and suddenly it means like there's a lot. No grammar considerations at all. Just throw it in there. So this is why today, most of the time, much and many are used for emphasis. Um, so much, too many. and also sentences beginning with there. There are many people. But even here, you can replace it with a lot of. There are a lot of people. He has a lot of money. A lot of is just a great word. More examples. The logic of using the word of is the same as for some of, right? If there's a word in front of the noun, right? My friends, the houses, then you need the of. Otherwise, you should not use the of. Okay, so a lot of and lots of, these two are the same. Plenty of is also the same. But a large number of and numerous can only be used with countable nouns. And that makes sense because you need a number. Numerous is just the adjective form of number. So if you're talking about a number, you have to be able to count. So these two can only be used with countable nouns. You can't say a large number of money. You can say a large amount of money. Okay, so those are the large quantities. Here are the small quantities. And this is possibly a little confusing. Please pay attention. You can only use few or a few with countable, little or a little with uncountable. So few goes with many. These are countable. Little goes with much. These are uncountable. The difference is that word When do you need If you're just saying there's not a lot, just like a small quantity, add a few, a little. But if you're saying smaller than expected, the quantity is smaller than you expected, say few with no For example, a few of my friends were there, so I was quite happy, because two or three came. But if you say few of my friends were there, that means you expected there to be more. And so I was disappointed. Here's another example. We have a little time, so let's stop and have a cup of coffee. So you have time, not a lot, but you do have some time that you can use. But hurry up, there's little time left, means there's less time than you expected. So now you are running out of time. So if you have some, not a lot, but some that you can use, add a. If you have less than expected, don't add a. Okay, next, each and every. These are sometimes hard for Chinese speakers to learn. Both of these are singular, 单数, singular, and there's a different meaning. If every noun is the same, use every. Look at these two examples. Every child was reading a book. Everybody is doing the same thing. Each child was reading a different book. It is emphasizing the difference. So both of these are singular, but if you say every, you're talking about them doing something similar. You're talking about how they are the same. If you use each, you're talking about them separately. Here's another example. You have to fill in details on every page. So go to page 1, fill in the details. Go to page 2, fill in the details. Every page is the same. But you have to fill in details on each page individually. which means you can't just copy the first page and paste it onto the second page. You have to flip through each individual page to fill out those details. If you think about it, the situation for both of these sentences is exactly the same. The difference is the emphasis. Are you emphasizing you have to do the same thing again and again? Use every. Are you emphasizing you have to do it for individual pages? Use each. Here's another example. He makes the same mistake every time versus he makes a different mistake each time. I think this example is probably the clearest one. In both cases, the dude makes a lot of mistakes. But if it's the same mistake every time, use every. If it's a different mistake for every individual moment, use each. 要我用中文讲一遍吗？这两个字都是每一个、每一次。但是如果你要讲每一次都，请用 every。如果你要讲每一次分别，用 each。中文讲完了。Okay, but remember, it is always singular. Each was, every has. Um, and then the word each has one more use. You can use the word each as an adverb. So each of the children was reading a book, or you can say the children were each reading a book. The meaning is the same. It's just two different ways of saying it. We each have provided, we have each provided. In this case, the verb is the verb is plural because the subject is plural. Each is singular, but in this case, each is not the subject. The subject is plural. So plural subject, and then each as an adverb. Okay, all and whole. Okay, technically these sentences are correct. All the factory, all my collection, etc. But for numbers 1 through 7, I would add of. I think this is another British English thing. It's correct, but it's not very common. Usually we would add of. Number 8 is correct. Not all art is valuable. And the reason I would add of is because you have a specific context. The factory, my collection, the school. It makes more sense to add of. But here, there is no context. It's just art. All art around the world, no context. So you don't need the of. Now this brings us to another easily confused rule in English, which is negation. Not all art is valuable. Let me type this out. Not all art is valuable equals all art is not valuable. These two sentences are exactly the same. This is different from Chinese. In English, no matter where you put the not, you are always negating the all. So if you want to say what you think this sentence means, you have to say, no art is valuable. And the most famous example of this rule is um, all that glitters, or sometimes you will see glistens, is not gold. And this just means not all that glitters or glistens is gold. The idea being just because it looks good does not mean it is actually good. To glitter means like to shine, to give off light. So please try to remember this. Um, if you have an all and you have a not in the same sentence, the not is always negating the all. So all not all art is valuable equals all art is not valuable equals some art is valuable, some is not. These three sentences mean the same thing. And this is what the textbook is saying. Not all art is valuable means some art is not valuable. It does not mean no works of art are valuable. Um, all can be used with singular and with plural. Usually with singular, um, again, this is British English, but like usually with singular, it is a singular verb. So in American English, this one would be knows. All of the school knows. But with plural, you would have plural. All diamonds are, all fish, plural, live, all kinds. And then finally, whole. Whole plus noun. The whole noun just means all. The most famous example, you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. This whole story, which means this entire story, all of the story has been made up. You can add of the if you want. It doesn't change the meaning, but it's less common. Right. Next, you have most and most of. This means more than half. If you use most, it has to be more than half. Enough means you have managed to cross a threshold, 跨过门槛. Like, do you have enough money? Right? There's a threshold. If you have enough, you can buy them. If you don't have enough, you cannot. And then if you use enough before a noun, but you use enough after an adjective or verb. So if enough is an adjective, put it in front. If enough is an adverb, put it in back. We talked about this. These are just some reminders. Okay, that's quantifiers. Questions? Okay, so let's take a short break. And during the break, please do page 7. These are all possessives. Please add the apostrophes in the right place. Okay, let's compare answers. Number 3. Okay, we really need to make this smaller. Number 3, babies. Okay, here's what else we can do. This one. Eating. Huh, it's already small. Okay. Number 3 is babies. Number 4, it's important to make sure a baby's toys are safe. Number 5, someone called, but because of the static on the phone, I couldn't understand the caller's words. One person. Number 6, a receptionist's job is to write down callers' names and take messages. Could you tell that callers is plural, right? More than one name, more than one caller. Number 7, newspapers aren't interested in yesterday's news. They want to report today's events. Yes, so you can also use possessives for objects. Doesn't have to only be people or animals. Like the pen's color is, right, pen apostrophe S. You can use it for objects too. 8, each flight has at least 2 pilots. The pilot's seats, 1 seat per pilot. So if there's more than 1 seat, there's more than 1 pilot. The pilot seats are in a small area called the cockpit. Number 9, rainforests. Okay, this is an old textbook. Today, the word rainforest is one word, rainforest. Rainforests cover 5% of the Earth's surface, but have 50% of the different species of plants. That's it. And but number 10, mosquitoes' wings move incredibly fast. 11, a mosquito's uh, a mosquito's wings move about 1,000 times per second. Its wing movement is the sound we hear when a mosquito is humming in our ears. Number 12, the average pulse of a human being is 70 beats per minute. A cat's, sorry, a cat's heart beats 130 times per minute. Elephants have slow heartbeats. Did you know that an elephant's heart beats only 25 times per minute? 13, when we went to the circus, we saw 3 elephants. All of us enjoyed watching the elephants' tricks. Elephants are quite intelligent animals that can be taught to respond to spoken commands. 14, elephants like to roll in mud. The mud protects the animals' bodies from insects and the sun. This is plural because bodies is plural. One body per animal. So if you have more than one body, you have more than one animal. 15, when we were walking in the woods, we saw an animal's footprints on the muddy path. Questions about this page? Okay, let's move on. Next page. Make the nouns possessive if necessary. This is a little bit different from the last one. The last one is only about apostrophes, 撇号. But some possessives do not use apostrophes, right? It's as a possessive does not use apostrophes, despite what Microsoft is telling you. So if it needs to be a possessive, please turn it into a possessive. There's 14. I'll give you 5 minutes. Maybe that's too much. 4 minutes. Yeah. Okay, let's compare answers. Number 3. I know Jack's roommates. Number 4. I know Jack well. He's a good friend of mine. No change. Number 5. I have one roommate. My roommate's desk is always messy. Number 6. You have two roommates. Your roommate's desks are always neat. Number 7. Joanne and Betty are sisters. No change. Number 8. Joanne is Betty's sister. My sister's name is Sonia. Number 9. My name is Richard. I have two sisters. My sisters' names are Joanne and Betty. Number 10. There is an old saying, a woman's work is never done. Originally, this meant housework, and it is true, housework is never done. But today, it also refers to uh, when men fuck up and women have to clean up after them. Number 11. I read a book about the changes in women's roles and men's roles in modern society. 12. Jupiter is the largest planet in our solar system. We cannot see, look, cannot is one word, right? Cannot, one word. We cannot see Jupiter's surface from the Earth because thick clouds surround the planet. Does Jupiter have a surface? 木星有表面吗？有地面吗？ Nobody knows. Okay, 13. Mercury is the closest planet to the sun. Mercury's atmosphere is extremely hot and dry. 14. Mars's surface has some of the same characteristics as the Earth's surface, but Mars could not support life as we know it on Earth. The plants and animals that live on the Earth could not live on any of the other planets in our solar system. Okay, you see this asterisk, 星号. This usually means that there is a note. I cut off the note to save space, but the note said this. Mars is the name of a planet, but it is also the name of an ancient Roman god, 战神. So if you're talking about Mars as a god, it looks like this. This is one of those crazy English exceptions. If you use a possessive for ancient Greek or Romans names, you do not add the extra s. So like, for example, Socrates, Sugaladi. Socrates' enemies. It looks like this. You still pronounce it Mars's, Socrates's. You just don't add the s. For ancient Greek and Roman names. 15. Venus is sometimes called the Earth's twin because the two planets are almost the same size. But like Mars, Venus's surface is extremely hot and dry. The same rule applies here if you are talking about the goddess Venus, Mason. 16. The planets' English names come from ancient Roman mythology. I was just talking about this. Okay, cool. For example, Mars was the name of the god of war in ancient Rome. Jupiter was the king of the gods. Mercury, who was Jupiter's son, was the messenger of the gods. Venus was the goddess of love, beauty, and creativity. Venus's son was named Cupid, the god of love and desire. I want you to notice this. Look at this. Does that look strange to you? This is correct. The apostrophe belongs to the word. It is part of the word. So if you have a comma or period, that of course comes after the word. Okay, questions about this page? All right, let's keep going. Uh, okay, so this is also interesting. Change it to a possessive if you have to, and sometimes you have to add an extra s or an extra es. 10. I'll give you 3 minutes. Okay, let's compare answers. Number 3. My uncle is my father's brother. Number 4. I have 4 aunts, or you can say aunts if you want. All of my aunts' homes are within walking distance of my mother's apartment. Fun fact, the word aunt, when I say it, I say aunt, but when I read it in my head, I pronounce it as aunt for some strange reason. English will do weird things to your brain. Number 5, Esteban's aunt's oldest son is a violinist. Yes, you can stack possessives, Esteban's aunts, etc. So like my best friend's co-workers, mothers, bridge partners, bridges 桥牌, husband just lost his job. This is a perfectly grammatical sentence. Number 6, Bill's wife is a factory worker. Number 7, I walked into my boss's office. Yes, that's 3 S's. S apostrophe S. 8, I borrowed the secretary's pen to fill out the application form. 9, 5 astronauts were aboard the space shuttle. The astronauts' safe return to Earth was a welcome sight to millions of television viewers. 10, it is the people's right to know what the city is going to do about the housing problem. Even though people is plural, it does not end with S. So you just treat it like a regular word, just add apostrophe S. 11, quite a few diplomats are assigned to our city. Almost all of the diplomats' children attend a special school. Diplomat, 外交官. 12, a diplomat's work invariably involves numerous meetings. Questions? Okay, next page. Same thing as the previous one. Add S or ES. Okay, not the same. So this is about 2 different things. Should it be plural and should it be possessive? 2 different things. 12 questions. I'll give you another 3 minutes. Okay, let's compare answers. Number 1, most leaves are green. Number 2, my mother's apartment is small. Number 3, potatoes are good for us. Number 4, do birds have teeth? The answer is no, despite what Hayao Miyazaki might want you to think. Number 5, Tom's last name is Miller. Number 6, 2 thieves stole Mr. Lee's car. Why does it keep on correcting? Okay, thieves and Lee's. Okay, number 7, mountains are high and valleys are low. Number 8, a good toy holds a child's interest for a long time. Number 9, children's toys need to be strong and safe. Number 10, all of the actors' names are listed on page 6 of your program. 11, teachers are interested in young people's ideas. And number 12, almost all monkeys have opposable thumbs on not only their hands, but also their feet. People have thumbs only on their hands. Questions? Yes. Okay, number 2 and number 3. Number 2, my mother's apartment is small. Singular possessive. Number 3, potatoes are good for us. Plural. Remember the E. ES. Thank you. Other questions? Okay, continuing. Add apostrophes. Just 4? Just 4. Okay. There's only 4, right? I'll give you 2 minutes. There's actually only 3. The first one is an example. Okay, let's compare answers. Number 2, individuals. Here, individuals. Number 3, heroes and heroes. ES is plural, right? So you put it at the back. And number 4, children's. Let's see. And then the last sentence, adults' toys, and again, children's toys. Only 3 of them. All of the other words are correct. Questions? Okay, let's continue. So 9 spots that need an apostrophe and 10 spots that have an extra apostrophe. I'll give you 3 minutes. So some of them are should be deleted, and sometimes you should add one. Okay, we have a question about the previous page, number 4. Children's apostrophe S, adults apostrophe S, and children's apostrophe S. Yeah. Did you want to ask about any of the words in the middle? Okay, so back to page 11. Um, did I say 3 minutes? Okay, let's restart 3 minutes from now. Okay, let's answers. Things to do this week. A. Call John's doctor and arrange for a release of annual medical report. There's missing a word, the annual. Often in English, when we're making a list, we will sometimes skip the and to save time. But you should know, technically there should be the word the here, the annual medical report. B, check on last spring's blood pressure numbers. It's not how you spell numbers. To see whether they need to be changed. C, ask John about his rodent problems. A rodent is a rat. So John has problems with rats. D, find out why networks can't, haha, did you forget this? Can't broadcast Tuesday's speech live as John needs primetime publicity. E, ask whether his fondness for long speeches is a problem. F, send big present to network president and remind him that you are both Yale 06. Remember, an apostrophe replaces missing letters. So 06 means 2006. Yale 06 means that they both graduated from Yale in 2006. They are the class of 2006. Related to this, if you're talking about a specific decade, um, like we would say the 2010s, which is from 2001 to 2010. No, 2010 to 2019 is the 2010s. But before the year 2000, we would say like the 90s. And usually there is no apostrophe here. Like technically it should be the 90s, but everybody knows what you're talking about, so we don't need an apostrophe. Okay, G. Order bouquets. A bouquet is a group of flowers, 花束. It's French, so you have to pronounce it in a very weird way. Bouquet. Order bouquets for secretary and National Secretaries Week card. Yes, National Secretaries Week, that is correct. There's also some confusion here. So like Teacher's Day, plural, no possessive. It is a day for teachers, not just one teacher, and it is for teachers, not belonging to teachers. And you know that it doesn't belong to teachers because on Teacher's Day, I still have to go to work. And so Secretary's Week, same reasoning. It's more than one secretary, and it's for secretaries, not belonging to secretaries. There is more confusion around a driver's license. If you are an Olivia Rodrigo fan, you would type it like this. But technically, it should be driver's license because it is for each individual driver. But many places have avoided this problem simply by calling them driving licenses. No question. H. Rewrite speech on cat litter. I have no idea why there's an apostrophe there. On cat litter to reflect sister in laws, idea. No apostrophe. By the way, cat litter, 猫砂. I tell opposing manager's assistant that you guys wouldn't stand a chance in the old days. It's not how you spell days. Days. Um, should I explain the word sister-in-law? Sister-in-law is uh, your spouse's sister. 你结婚对象的姐妹，所以中文叫什么？妯娌吗？Yeah, okay. So in English, if it says in law, that means it's a relationship through marriage. Okay, questions about this page? Okay, what do we have next? Using to. Oh, okay, let's do this together. This is really, really easy. I'm not even sure why I asked you to do this one. Here's the thing. Two is a number, right? Can you say two plus an uncountable noun? No, because if it's uncountable, you can't count it. If you can't count it, you cannot say that there are two. So this is actually asking you, is the noun countable? If it is countable, change some to two. So for example, furniture, 家具, is not countable. So you can't change it. Tables are countable. So change it to two. Rings, countable? Yes, two rings. Jewelry, countable? No. Jewelry is uncountable. 珠宝 as a category, can't count it. Some jewelry. Homework, countable? No. If you need to count homework, use assignments. Some homework. And so here we go. Two assignments. Two jobs. Some work. Work is not countable. Two questions. Some information. Information is not countable. Knowledge is not countable either. So how do we count information and knowledge? Say a piece of information, a piece of knowledge, and you can count the word piece. I learned two new words. Words is countable. Vocabulary is not countable. Vocabulary refers to the whole list of words that you learn. Questions? Okay, this one is even funnier. Remember when I said a lot of you can apply to everything? Yeah, countable, uncountable, doesn't matter. You can always say a lot of. So the answer to this section is to change every single one to a lot of. That will take you about 30 seconds. So like a lot of furniture, a lot of tables, a lot of rings, a lot of jewelry, a lot of homework, a lot of assignments, a lot of jobs, a lot of work, a lot of questions, a lot of information, a lot of words, a lot of vocabulary. It all fits. A lot of is a great word. Okay, what do we have on page 13? Aha, a few versus few. I'll let you do this for homework. So for homework, please do from page 13 to 15. Is that right? Hmm. I don't think that's right. I want to give you more homework. Hang on. What are we doing next week? Pronouns and demonstratives. Hmm. Yeah, okay. No, please do up to page 16. 13 to 16. Okay, see you next week.